2011, Latoya Ammons, along with her mother and 3 kids, moved into their new house at 3860 Carolina Street in Gary, Indiana. What happened to them is almost unbelievable. Most people didn't believe them until they witnessed it with their own eyes. What this family experienced was horror that was so bad, a documentary and movie was made about it. This is the true story behind the movie, The Deliverance. In November 2011, Latoya Ammons and her mother and her 3 children, then ages 7, 9, and 12, moved into a house located at 3860 Carolina Street. Days after the family moved in, they claimed black flies swarmed the porch in December and kept returning even though the family believed they were killed. After moving in, Rosa Campbell, who's the grandmother, initially heard footsteps in the basement and doors creaking. Usually after midnight, Campbell and Ammons both said they occasionally heard the steady clump of footsteps climbing the basement stairs and the creak of the door opening between the basement and the kitchen, but no one was there. Even after they would lock the door, the noise continued. Later, she alleged to have witnessed the shadowy figure of a man pacing in the living room and found a boot print. Campbell claimed that she was choked by an unknown force. Ammons' 12-year-old daughter claimed to have levitated above her bed during a sleepover with a friend. It was about 2 a.m. Normally, Campbell, Ammons, and her children would have been asleep, but they were mourning the death of a loved one with a group of friends. Ammons, who was in Campbell's bedroom at the time, startled everyone by screaming. Campbell said she ran into her bedroom where her then 12-year-old granddaughter and a friend were staying. Both the mother and the grandmother said the 12-year-old was levitating above the bed, but she was unconscious. According to their account of events, Ammons and several others surrounded the girl praying. The grandmother said she remembers being terrified. Eventually, Campbell said her granddaughter fell into the bed after they engaged in prayer. The daughter had no memory of the incident. The older son was allegedly thrown across the room by an unknown force. The younger son allegedly had his eyes rolled into the back of his head and was growling, saying, "It's time to die and I'll kill you." The family reached out to their doctor, Jeffrey Anuku, on April 19, 2012. When he visited the house during a supposed hunting, he noted that their behavior was delusional. Someone from his office contacted the police. After the police arrived, the children were taken to the hospital. The older boy was described as acting rationally while the younger boy screamed and thrashed. The mother and grandmother said that they didn't know exactly what it was, but they believed it was something supernatural. They called local churches, but most refused to listen. Eventually, after listening to Campbell and Ammons talk about the house and visiting it, officials at one church told them that the Carolina Street house had spirits in it. They recommended that the family clean the home with bleach and ammonia, then use oil to draw crosses on every door and window. At the church's suggestion, Ammons said that she poured olive oil on her 3 children's hands and feet, then smeared oil in the shape of crosses on their foreheads. Campbell and Ammons also reached out to 2 clairvoyants who said that the family's home was haunted by more than 200 demons. Their explanation made sense to Campbell and Ammons. They say because it meshed with their Christian faith. They were told to move out of the house, but that wasn't even an option. Being that they couldn't move away from the house, they made an altar in the basement.
It was horrible.
This is the woman who lived in the House of Horrors with her 3 children before Zach Bagans bought it. Latoya Ammons fought back tears when she told us how they fled in terror after her daughter was raised right off her bed. She says the demons sounded like this.
We've waited 5 months. It sounded like something dead.
It's right out of the movie Poltergeist.
He walked up the wall and did the backwards flip.
How did everybody in the hospital react to your son walking up the wall?
They took off and they ran. The doctor from the psych ward said that's not real. That's not human. No human can do that.
Speaking of deep, mysterious voices.
You in there. While I'm involved in this conversation, the AM/FM radio went to static and turned up very loud, and it said, "You in there." And the person on the phone say, "What the hell was that?" And I say, "I don't know."
What was your reaction?
I was in shock.
You could see it stretching his stomach. And my grandson was crying, "Oh, Mama, Grandma, help, help." And then we go to his leg, and his leg was bulging. I'm like, "Oh my God, Toya, look." It was bulging out of his arm. And then we pray over him, pray over him, pray over him, pray over him, and we know him, and we know him. And I told my daughter, I said, "They're going to make it look like we are hurting these children. So we're going to have to get some help some kind of place, some kind of way. We got to convince somebody that this is actually going on." Until he saw what the other one did when he went up that wall. Then he like, "Oh my God, this is impossible. Nobody can do this. Nobody."
This can actually possess you, use you, so you can give them souls, and then make you take your own life, So, I mean, it's real. And a lot of people don't think about it. They live their lives day to day, and you never think that it would be you. There was like horse flies on the inside porch, and this was, the beginning of winter, so that was very odd to me. We would lock the basement door, and you would hear something hit the door, boom, and you would hear dogs barking. No dogs outside, no dogs. We would go look, no dogs.
He took me inside the house and showed me different stuff. I didn't see anything that was relevant to what she said, even though other people did, so I was very skeptical. I just figured she owed me money, and this is a fabricated story, and that's not strange to my walk of life. That does happen, Like I said, I thought I heard it all. This is a new one to me.
And I told my daughter, I said, "They're going to make it look like we are hurting these children. So we're going to have to get some help some kind of place, some kind of way. We got to convince somebody that this is actually going on."
This boy was in one of the emergency room areas. He was kind of growling, and his grandmother was holding his hands and trying to coax him back. And all of a sudden he started, she was kind of backing him up and toward the wall, and then he started to walk up the wall backwards. Did a flip over her head, and then there was the psychologist and the social service worker in that room that saw that, and they ran out and got the security, and the security called the chaplain, and he called.
He walked up the wall backwards while holding the grandmother's hand. He flipped over and landed on his feet. Those are words written in an official Department of Child Services report on a family who claimed to be possessed by demons. How could a 9-year-old boy walk up a wall backwards? That and other factors made this exorcism case international news when the Indianapolis Star newspaper released a story where more than a dozen interviews with DCS personnel, psychologists, and 3 different police departments spoke to the authenticity of these phenomena.
I went on the investigation, like I said at the very beginning, thinking that it was a hoax. The more investigation we did, I believe that there's something there. There's just too many people that I know who are truthful people that saw things, that some of them which I saw, to discount everything.
This started in April 2012 when Latoya Ammons and her 3 children, ages 12, 9, and 7, claimed to be possessed by demons. On April 19th, they went to their family physician and stated that the daughter levitated above the bed, that items were being thrown around in their house, and there were voices talking to the children. Their doctor said, "I was scared myself when I walked into the room." Medical staff witnessed the 7-year-old who was lifted and thrown into the wall with nobody touching him. He passed out, 911 was called, and they were taken to the Gary Methodist Hospital campus. DCS Family Case Manager Valerie Washington was assigned to the investigation. The official DCS report states that later that evening, the 9-year-old walked up the wall backwards while holding the grandmother's hand, and he never let go. He flipped over and landed on his feet in front of the grandmother and sat down in the chair. On her report it says, "I affirm under the penalties for perjury that the foregoing representations are true. The penalty for perjury is jail time, so this speaks to the authenticity of this occurrence." Years later, her account is consistent.
When he did walk up the wall, before my eyes. He could not remember doing it 5 minutes afterwards. We had no words to explain it because we didn't understand it either. I worked as a child fatality worker. You know, I investigated children dying. I've seen children in various situations burned, beaten, but after that it was just, it was traumatic.
2 feet below this dirt, they have reburied them, possibly keeping this portal still open.
Kind of don't think we should dig it up, dig this stuff up.
No, I think we need to close this down.
I mean, has anybody dug underneath here yet? We found anything?
The policeman dug. We found several items 2 feet deep, and that's about where they should still be.
Do you want us to dig those items up with the priest here? Do you want us to dig these items up?
It feels like something is telling me not to dig these items up.
I think it wants you, those things to stay. I don't think they should stay.
Make a sound so we can hear you.
Sounds like it's trying to speak through my stomach. I mean, it really does. I mean, I don't usually, it's not a normal thing for me.
Last night, we told you about a 9-year-old Indiana boy who apparently was doing some very shocking things, so much so that exorcism was involved. The Indianapolis Star, that state's biggest newspaper, is heavily covering the story, and a captain in the Gary, Indiana police force, Charles Austin, says the situation is credible. That is incredible. Joining us now from Chicago, Father Michael Maginot, Catholic priest, who has been dealing with the situation. So, Father, I want to keep this fact-based, what you know, what you saw, what you did. Let's start with the boy. What do you know about him?
Actually, I have never met any of the children. The first time I heard about the incident was when, just after the boy walked up the wall backwards. There was a furor there, people running out, calling for the police, security, the chaplain. He called me. I was in my parish conducting a Bible study class, and I got the call because I was on call for the Catholic priest chaplain who was off at that time. And they called me in to do an exorcism. And I said,
but let me stop you there. Exorcism is a very rare and serious thing that the Catholic Church, and you have to go through a lot of hoops to get it approved, to get the people in. It disturbs me a little bit that the boy involved, and this is according to the newspaper and other eyewitnesses, you know, was doing incredible things like walking up walls and things like that. But you yourself... You yourself never talked to the boy. Why not?
Well, when I went to do the interview at the home with the mother and the grandmother, it was a 4-hour interview. And the first 2 hours were basically just getting information of all the occurrences and phenomena that was surrounding everything leading up to that incident at the emergency room in the hospital.
The problem I'm having with this is, number one, you didn't see the boy. I think the credibility of the Catholic Church is in a tough way now in this country. Exorcism is a very serious thing, very, very serious. I understand you got permission from the bishop in your diocese to do this. But it just seems to me that the story is not solid enough to go public with it. And there are a lot of people watching right now that say this is more mumbo-jumbo from the Roman Catholic Church and no credibility here at all. How would you answer that?
Well, the 2 boys and the girl one was put into a lockdown psychological children's ward, and the other 2 were taken to the Carmelite sisters who take care of foster children. And so they were taken away from the parents and from the mother and the grandmother, and so I didn't have access to them. And I discovered in the investigation that the mother was also possessed. Mainly at the end, very end, I put the crucifix on her forehead and she began to convulse.
As a Catholic priest for many years, you believe that there is something unworldly involved with this family. You do believe that? All right, Father.
Yeah.